Hey everybody, I'm David.
I'm Jess.
I'm the husband.
I'm the wife.
And we are married.
15 to life.
Good morning, honey.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm tired.
You're looking beautiful, though.
Thank you.
We both got the red memo today.
Yeah. I think this is technically Christmas, but it's okay.
Yeah, who cares?
It's freezing cold outside.
It's freezing cold outside. That's why I'm wearing my brand new Thank You for Christmas. Whoever got this for me. I think this is this. I think this your
Clark,
dad.
I think.
Clark did this, or your dad did this.
I don't know. Somebody.
One of the two. Somebody did this, but
Somebody
no,
did.
I love this. This is so comfortable. But yeah, it has been really cold here the last couple weeks. For those of you that don't know, some of Jessica's family lives in South Alabama along the coastline.
And it's Pensacola.
To see the video clips
Some parts of like the beach got like 9 inches of snow.
I know, to see the beach and the ocean waves crashing and there's like snow.
I heard that there's
It's
been
so
nothing
crazy.
like this since like 100 years.
It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Signs of the times. Come, Lord Jesus, come.
I'm jealous of the snow though. We just
Yeah.
got the very cold. So
Yeah, but we did have snow for a little while, and then we had to deal with it. And
not enough.
Not
I wish we
enough.
had more.
But you don't even like to play in the snow.
I like to look out the window and see the snow.
Yeah, but you don't have to drive in it. Then you don't have to
No.
shovel it. Then you don't have to salt it. Then you have to pray that people still come to
No,
church.
I just get to enjoy it. I like everybody being home.
Talk about
from
wanting to
school.
watch the world burn, or in this case,
No,
freeze.
I love it. It's so cozy.
It is cozy. It's like a Hallmark Channel movie. You'd sit and
I love
watch the
just
snow.
driving down the road and seeing like all the snow out the window. It's just
Yeah.
so pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I love the snow too, but I'm just, the older I'm getting, the more I have to realize, wait a second, I have to deal with the snow. I can't just enjoy it. I have to actually deal with it.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy the snow, and I do want to see snow in some capacity every single year.
Yeah.
What have you been up to lately, honey?
Right now, I'm just very tired. One of our children were up all night, so I'm dragging.
I swear they draw straws to see who's going to
It's
be
actually been a long run of them doing pretty good. Like
Yeah.
we've had good sleep, so I guess we were due for a bad day.
We were due for one bad day.
Yeah, hopefully
Yeah.
it's just one. I'm tired, but
Yeah, it's been fun. But we've been really trying to, get settled in for the new year and everything that's been going on.
been busy.
And it has been busy. A lot of New Year's stuff been going on, and got a few big things coming up on the church calendar that we're going to be preparing for. But today we had some time and said let's jump right back into our podcast. And I'm excited about this because overwhelmingly people were excited listening to our first episode about being in Texas. And
Yeah.
so I really appreciate all of the, the feedback and the comments you guys have been giving to us about that. So we're going to keep the train going. Let's go right into part 2. Where we left off, we had just taken the job and we were kind of realizing, holy cow, we live in San Antonio, Texas, 16 hours away if you include stops from the family, 900 miles away. And we moved into our 3rd floor apartment, which is, I agree with you. You said this is probably the most beautiful apartment. Do you remember any specifics about the apartment that made it unique and made it pretty?
It had a really big kitchen for an apartment.
Yes, it did.
And it had like really nice touches. Like it had built-in bookshelves.
Uh-huh.
It was just like not the other apartments we lived in were okay, but they were very like bare bones. This was very much like a little bit of like a luxury kind of feel.
Yeah, a little more of a custom feel to it.
Yeah.
Like,
And the kitchen was about the size. Actually, I think it was bigger than our kitchen now. Like it
I
was
know.
a really big kitchen.
It was a big kitchen.
And it was a beautiful place.
It was. I really enjoyed living there. And we lived in that apartment
2
for
years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And then we lived in our apartment after that for 1 year.
Then we bought our house.
And then we bought our house that we lived in for 3 years, almost 3 years.
I don't even think it was quite that.
It was almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it was a time. But so we're still in 2010 at this point. Like I said, we just moved there. So now it's no longer the courting phase, I guess you could call it, of is this going to work, or are they really going to come out and be there? We accepted, we moved there, we're getting our feet wet. Do you remember kind of describe the initial first few months of being in San Antonio?
I think I said last time I was extremely homesick, and I've talked about this some on my channel in different times, maybe even here, but I just felt very underqualified to be like a pastor's wife. Like I had no idea like what I was expected of me and what I should do. Like I knew I loved you and we were married, but I didn't get like special training on being a pastor's wife. I don't know.
Like when you say that, what are you judging that off of? Like,
Well, just like all of the pastor's wives I knew were very much like they led with their husbands, you know, like even the music pastor's wives that I knew, they led worship and they were on the stage. And I know people that, you know, preached with their husband, all this stuff. So I just felt, I don't know, I just felt like I didn't know. I was still very shy. I just didn't know what I was supposed to be, you know? And I feel like I did have expectations placed on me because I was your wife. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I was asked to teach a class or be in the kids' church or do different things. And it was a stretching time for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it was awkward for me because, you know, you grow up seeing, you know, of course, my grandparents and then other pastors I've served under, you see the wives involved with their husbands. But I just always assumed, you know, it was because they had found the areas that she wanted to be in. They'd found the, you know, the places of.
Maybe it was like that for your grandmother.
I don't know. I mean, but she drove him around, sat on the front row, helped him with his notes. He would share thoughts with her. She would reflect back, that's what you do with me. And you do drive me around because you get car sick if I drive. But you know, I never looked at it from the perspective until it became an issue. That's when I first began to, you know. I
honestly didn't think it was. I never thought about it. Like when we got married, I never was thinking like, oh, now I'm going to be a pastor's wife. Like I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah,
until we kind of got thrown into it.
I mean, and this is going to be chapters upon chapters throughout our ministry.
We don't have to make it a big part of this.
We don't have to make it a big part of this, but there will be a recurring theme in all of these vlogs, and I've thought a lot about this. I was thinking about this and praying about this the other day.
10 years of dealing with this to kind of come full circle around.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's been a long time.
Yeah, and as the story unfolds, you're going to sense more and more what we're talking about. For me, moving all the stuff into my office, you know, trying to get settled within that. I had this little bitty office facing the receptionist desk, and people had to go through me inside the office and through the receptionist to get to the lead pastor. So he was in the office adjacent to us. And I just remember being in that office, looking around going, this is where I work. And then I would go down the stairs and I would get reacquainted with the stage. And one of my rules of thumb is anywhere I go, I try to learn what everything does and how everything works so that way if anything happens to it, or if I need to upgrade anything, I know where to go to fix it. And that was one of the first things that I quickly realized is when you go to a place that has been established for a long time and people that are there have served there for a long time, you quickly begin to realize, you know, that respect is earned. And people have to learn to trust you. Yeah. And you can't, even though you're being paid to do so, you can't just walk in and start doing things and changing things. There has to be an adjustment process. And I learned in ministry, there's something called the family stage, where in the beginning you have to let the sheep smell their shepherd. Because if a shepherd changes, the new sheep may not trust the shepherd. And so the shepherd literally just walks among them, and they learn his scent, and they learn this is how he talks to us. This is how he leads. This is, you know, how he does what he does. And some churches are more quick to adapt, and it could be just a few weeks. Other churches, it could take years.
I feel like in Texas, we learned a lot of like, what not to do next time.
Oh, absolutely.
So we were young.
I mean, it was our first full-time job.
And we had great intentions.
A lot of what we learned there was more of honestly what not to do. Yeah. And it truly was. And
trial and error.
And that's from our perspective. And that's from, you know, watching around us, you know, we began to realize, things we learned that it's okay to put up with this for a season because eventually it might change or this might adapt. It also became apparent to us things that we learned really quickly. This is something you cannot let continue. You have to deal with it immediately before it gets worse. And that usually deals with relationships with people. And I learned this a long time ago. 80% of what you do in ministry is relationships, is talking to people, engaging with people, learning how people work, learning their personalities, learning their work schedules, learning their family lives. You can't get on to someone who's not getting it in a practice the same way you would somebody else, because the person that, might need to be getting onto. Maybe it is because they didn't put in the work and they didn't practice. Maybe somebody else did put in the work and didn't practice, but they've had a terrible work day, and you just may know that's the job they have. And if they come in dragging or show up 10 minutes late, we have a funny story that Jessica's best friend Jen was late to a practice one time, and I made a joke about
David's jokes are very dry.
I have a very dry sense of humor. I made a joke along the lines of, with a smile on my face, glad you finally made it, and she got offended by that because she was like, you don't know the day I've had.
Yeah.
And you don't know what I've been doing all day. And so you better be glad I'm even here right now. And, so again, you got to learn that stuff. And that way.
We were so young in so many ways. So many ways.
What else do you remember about the early, first
I just remember being really, really homesick. I remember I just stayed home with Layla a lot. I remember being up at the church with you a lot.
Yeah.
And us, figuring things out together, kind of exploring San Antonio a lot.
Yeah. Our favorite places to eat.
Yeah, there's so much good food in San Antonio, but it was a whole different culture. It was a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah.
Responsibility level. I definitely felt in over my head. You probably did too.
Oh, yeah.
And just like, wow, this is totally different.
Totally different. And so much of what I felt was adapting, but also, like we said in the first video, this is just a completely different culture than we were used to. San Antonio is in the middle of a city. City life moves fast. And, a lot of
military city,
a lot of, it's big on respect. It's big on, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, observing.
I mean, it is kind of a Southern.
There's a Southern hospitality to it, but it's also, there's a Western feel to it.
Yeah,
there's a lot,
Hispanic.
There's a lot more Hispanic familia feel to it. And like I said, being in an Air Force town with the Air Force bases, there was a lot of, protocol and a lot of things that were observed. And we just had to learn how to find the landmines and try not to step on them. And that's the thing about every single family has different landmines. And when we first got there, something else that I learned in college from one of my pastoral theology professors is when you get into a church setting, find the influencers. Find the people that when they say something, the whole room turns their heads to listen to what this person's saying.
I remember it being very interesting to try to learn everybody's names, but then also what I didn't expect is how they all connected to each other.
Right.
This person's married to this person and their son is him. And it was very much like trying to learn all of that it was kind of crazy, but.
Yeah, it really was. And I just remember thinking about, at a certain point with the different families involved and the different settings that were involved, we quickly realized that this is not like there's no such thing as an isolated incident here. If we do anything that may be deemed as unpopular, it's not just one person that might be upset with us. It's a whole
crew.
half the crew that could potentially be upset with us. And
That's so true. It took us a while to kind of earn everybody's trust.
It really did.
And I get it. Like we were so young, inexperienced, and we made mistakes.
Yep.
And it took a while for people to realize like we really did have good intentions.
And again, the thing that frustrated me was the stuff I'm doing under my job description.
I know.
And yet it's almost like I had to ask permission from the people that I am not working for. Can I please do my job?
I know.
And it was really weird. It was
the
really
kind of stuff they don't teach you in school.
Yeah. And as part of the family stage philosophy that I believe in, I also came in very quickly and did not do much change. And the little things I did change, I immediately realized I can't do this yet. Mm-hmm. They really were hesitant to anything changing because, again, how long are you going to be here?
Right.
So why are you changing stuff when you may not even be around to deal with the change after the fact?
Yeah.
So just leave everything alone, would you?
Yeah.
And so for about the first 6 months, I didn't change a whole lot, and I didn't really adapt too many things differently. I really let the people that were still leading things keep leading them while I kept learning everybody's names and I kept learning, how to navigate the difference in the culture. We were trying our best to, slowly integrate how we lead and the kind of worship we love and the way I would use lighting or use sound and computers and things like that. We started slowly doing that. But it was about Christmas time when they basically did a musical production. A lot of people may call it a cantata. They did that pretty much a repeat of one they'd done several years earlier.
Yeah.
Because I was like, you know what? I just got here. You know, it's too early for me to really, you know, dig in and do that. And what was funny is the people I was leading enjoyed that. The people above me did not.
They were ready for you because they knew you had like a production minor and all this stuff. And so they wanted you to do your thing.
Get with it, man. Yeah. We're paying you to get with it. And it was frustrating to me because I was constantly hearing 3 different opinions minimum.
Oh yeah.
And had to pick which one to go with. And I want y'all to hear me when I say this. It doesn't matter what choice I make. There's collateral damage on some sides.
Oh yeah.
There was such a divided mentality, even within the pastor and his wife. There was a divided mentality. It's the only church I've ever served in where I had lunch occasionally with both, and they each gave me their list of things they wanted to see.
They were both, like I said, like the pastor's wife who was leading with him and preaching with him and all this. So they were very much not, I would say, equal says, but they both had other places we've been at, the pastor's wife had a important role, but not necessarily that kind of role.
Right.
So, and again, I'm still looking up to all these people going, is that what I'm supposed to be?
Exactly.
And that was intimidating for sure for me.
It was very intimidating for me. To this day, anytime I say to Jessica, I have a meeting with the pastor. You want to go from here?
I have like PTSD from it.
Yep.
Because we had a lot of again, we were young.
Yep.
We had the best intentions.
Always.
But I think it was misinterpreted sometimes. And it took years to kind of learn everybody and learn personalities and stuff. And so you would go into a meeting and it would just be like brutal and very critical. And anytime now, even how many years later, it's getting better.
Yeah.
I finally told you, like, don't tell me anymore if you have meetings.
Don't tell me if you have a meeting with a pastor.
Because it stressed me out. Like, what's wrong? What's going to happen? So.
Yeah. And it truly is. And then when special meetings were called with his wife or when special meetings were called with department heads, Pastor David, I need to talk to you about something. Anything like that would always make me so full anxious. Again, everybody remember, I'm one of the youngest people in this ministry, and I'm leading it.
I know.
So everything,
and it was a very big team.
Yes,
with lots of different personalities.
Yes,
and we were struggling to find our place.
Yeah, Yeah. So we turn the corner into the new year. It's 2011 now.
Okay, we're gonna have to start speeding this up. We got 6 years.
Yeah. Well, we're laying the groundwork because there's about 3 years that we could talk about in less than half an episode, and it's pretty much status quo. There's a lot of good things within it. It was our best years that we were pretty much at a great place, and so but to get to that we have to go through the hard time, and so 2011 comes around, and now it's time to start talking about Easter. Basically, what happened was the expectations got to the place where they really wanted me to show everything that they hired me for.
That we didn't even realize is
that's why we were there. Pastors, if any pastors out there listen to this, or any potential candidates out there for a job listen to this, make sure that you're clear on why they want you, and be sure you're clear on why you want them to work for you.
Just like, what expectations do you have for me going into this?
We were under the full impression that you guys are young, you're cutting edge, come in and help us get to the 21st century. And then as soon as we got there, that script flipped. And it was more so, we need y'all to plug a gap and adapt it to what we already are doing, and do it just better than the last person did it. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I don't understand why. You could have just told us up front.
I think sometimes going to it, they don't really even know what they
probably
want.
Don't.
And then once you get in there, they're like, oh, I don't really want to upset all these people. And it's just, it kind of changes even unintentionally from them.
Yeah. And so so one of the reasons why they said they hired me, which they did not say at all in the interview, was I have a minor in church music and a minor in theater. And so they're like, well, that means you're going to be great at doing productions for us. Productions never came up in the interview.
No, we never talked about that.
We never talked about that. And so they expected me to put on this Broadway level, Easter production that to this day, I love theater. I love musicals. I love all that. But when it comes to Easter, ever since The Passion came out in 2004, if you do anything in a church that's Easter related,
it's hard to do.
It's
First
hard
of all,
to do
you've
it.
got volunteers that you've got to try to schedule
Yep.
and get to want to even participate.
Yep.
Plus, we had the music side of it. There's a lot of music involved. There's
Choir
a lot of special
rehearsals, songs to learn.
props, all of this stuff. So it's a lot when you're dealing with a bunch of volunteers.
And you've got about 3 months to do it.
Limited money.
Yep.
But I will say that first Easter production came,
Yep.
and we definitely felt like
We're under the gun here.
this is make or break.
Yep. We have to
either do
we have
good-
to deliver here or our days here are limited, and we knew that.
And I mean, it was amazing.
There was a release of tears at the dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
Everybody just knew we have something special here.
It was amazing.
And we took it from a prepackaged musical that was out there, but I rewrote but it had no dialogue and no acting
yeah,
parts.
you wrote
I wrote all of the acting part of it and directed it, and it went along the lines of Paul and Silas being in jail because the biggest song in the world at that time, and especially in the Christian world, is Chris
Chains Are
Tomlin's
Gone.
My Chains Are Gone. And so I said, let's adapt that. And so the whole thing of our praise breaks chains, and the only reason we can praise is because of what Jesus did for us. And so we told the Easter story through the eyes of Paul and Silas, as if Paul is encouraging Silas while they're in jail. This is why we're in jail, because of the Jesus we preach. And we got to remember, if Jesus went through what he went through, then we should be able to go through what we're going through. And by the end of it, Paul and Silas get to the place where they start praising God. And, if you read the story in Acts 16, that's when the presence of God invaded the prison, shook the foundation of the prison, and their chains fell off. Everybody's chains fell off, and nobody wanted to leave. And so we had perfect casting across all places. The guy that played Jesus absolutely destroyed it. All the solos were perfect. Every song was perfect.
Everybody just really, it was like the first time everybody just came together.
Yeah.
And we truly were a team.
Yeah.
And I remember I was in the media booth doing all the media stuff. And before it started, I was like shaking because there was so much nerves, but I was also so proud of our team, and I knew it was going to be so good.
Yep.
And it was really good.
Was Austin working lights with you yet?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Alan and Cindy's oldest son.
He was like 12 or something.
12 or 13.
He was doing lights.
But he had fast fingers, and we did not have a lighting mixer that you could program scenes into.
Oh yeah, it was a rough.
It was
thing
an
for-
old mixer, so literally every single time you wanted to change lights, you had to put your fingers on the right ones and then move them at the same time. So his fingers are like doing this kind of thing, trying to make sure, okay,
And
these
he's like a little kid.
these 4 are going up and these 4 don't go up and all that. And so literally, and I'm big because I learned a long time in theater, lights are the storytellers. And so whatever's lit up, you're looking at, and whoever is lit up and is talking, that's who you're supposed to listen to. So basically, the lights are telling the story. And so lighting is very important to me. The colors of lights is very important to me. And that's where I learned how to climb a ladder on top of a paint scaffolding and change lights. And Jessica would come in and see me doing it and about have a heart attack every time. And so I said, and to this day, we have a running joke. When she calls me, if I say the phrase, guess where I am, what are you?
I know you're on a lighting thing.
I'm on a ladder.
Yeah, because
Without fail, she always calls me on a ladder.
He will put scaffolding up, put a ladder on top of that, and get on my just
because we don't have lifts, so we didn't have an extension ladder. So it was
terrifying.
It was a 15-foot ladder on top, of a 2-level scaffold.
Yeah, no, I can't.
And it shook and everything. It's by the grace of God that I'm here.
Yeah, I know.
And so anyway, Easter goes. I to this day, I hate that we could only do it once.
I thought we did My Chains Are Gone again. We did My Chains
We
Are
did
Gone.
it again, but that Easter we only did it once. We only did it that morning.
Oh yeah, because we in the future we would do Good Friday.
services.
We would do Good Friday, and then a lot of times we would do 2 services
And then
too.
we did 2 services on Sunday morning.
So we would do it like 3 times.
And we used Good Friday as almost like because
dress rehearsal kinda.
people that wanted to come to the Good Friday service, they really want to be there.
Yeah.
And so
work out
it
the
was.
kinks.
They,
Although I will say there was very few kinks every time we did productions.
Well, it's me.
I know.
I
we,
mean,
we practiced it to the
We
ground.
practiced it to the bone. I made sure that if we took the platform, we were ready. And I'm a perfectionist by nature, and so I made sure that we had as much done. We would have literally only rehearsals where we would run through the songs, okay, and I would walk across, okay, now at this moment light this up, and they would take their script and write that, and this moment it was a full on production.
And what's weird is I was going to be in the choir from the very
Right.
beginning, but I forget what happened. You needed a media person, the person that couldn't do it or something. And so I was like, well, I've been to all these practices and I'll do it. And then from that day forward, all the productions we did, that's where I was.
Yep.
I loved it.
Yeah, and Jessica's loved it ever since. Your favorite place to be in ministry is up in the media booth.
It really is.
Yeah, and she's really good at it.
I love it.
Well, a lot of it's because you know me.
Yeah, well, we flow like when I'm doing words and stuff for you. Like I know where you're going before
Yep.
you go there.
Yep,
You know?
and you know, and
That's just years of doing
if
it.
you pray for us, pray for God to send us all the people that do all the stuff she doesn't want to do, so she can get back to the media booth. Because
I'm the backup.
I preach better knowing she's there. I lead worship better knowing you're there. It truly is. It's the 1-2 punch. And let me stop here for a minute. When people ask me, let's just deal with this now, so we don't have to talk about it any more episodes. When people ask me, so what is Jessica called to do? Or when people ask me, what does Jessica do when she's not in church? There's only one acceptable answer to that, and it is she does whatever she wants to do, and there's no pressure for whatever, because I'm done with this narrative of the stereotype, which is exactly what it is. It's a stereotype that somebody created a long time ago. And it just really, it frustrates me when people are like scratching their head when they see our dynamic on.
And this may seem like, what's the big deal? She doesn't speak. It is very rare in church life to have the dynamic that we have.
Yeah.
It's almost unheard of.
And the biggest, criticism we get is from other pastors and other ministers and let's call it what it is, religious people who just refuse to accept that a pastor's wife doesn't have to be in a stereotype or fit into this mold. And when people ask me, about what you do, feel called to be a mom and called to do what you're called to do, it always just, I always know where the conversation is going to go when there's this look in their eyes of, oh, is it because she can't get a job? Is it because of autism and she can't afford to leave Nate alone? And like they're coming up with excuses to rationalize why.
Because like when we were growing up, like there were stay-at-home moms everywhere. Both of our moms stayed home for the most part. It's not like they never worked a little bit,
but they weren't pastors' wives.
Yeah,
there's something about this stigma, and I'm trying my best to wrap my mind around it. So for future reference, there's just this thing that we've had to overcome that has been the constant pain point. Because, and here's the thing, the reason I'm bringing this up, because as much as if this affects you, the person who catches the collateral damage and shrapnel is me.
No, I know.
And I have tried constantly to try and help people understand she feels called to this. And so if Jessica says, I'm called to be a stay-at-home mom and be a support system to my husband who needs me to be that, the only answer to that ever should be, praise God, you're doing what God's called you to do, and I'm so thrilled for you that you get to operate in the role that you operate in. But that's never the answer. It's always, oh, well, is there something wrong? What'd you used to do for a living, or any other answer is offensive, and I don't understand it.
Well, and what always,
sorry to go on a rant, but this is a sore spot for me right now.
What makes me upset is we've been in lots of churches where the pastors' wives have had secular jobs.
Yep.
and they were respected. If they couldn't come to church because they had a shift they were working, no
Right.
big deal. But if my kid was sick
Yep.
and I couldn't come because of that, then there was a problem. And I just
Right.
think it's a double standard. And it diminishes the work I do at church because I do a lot at church.
Absolutely, you do.
It's just
Some days you do more than me.
I'm like running around like crazy. And so it's not when we say that, it's not a cop out like I just don't want to be at church. I just don't want to help.
No.
It's that no, I am going to do that to my best. I'm going to do everything I can. But my first calling is to our children and to you at home.
Right.
And so if there's something that comes up, that's going to take precedence for me.
Right. And again, it's the thing of, as God has called me to do what I do, that's what God has called you to do.
Yeah.
So for people to look at you and say, well, you know, is that what you really want to do? Are you like in between things right now?
This is what I get. None of that. It's, oh, well, maybe you can go back to nursing when you want to. And I tell them, I didn't like nursing school. I didn't like nursing and working a job. I didn't like that. I did that as a
Because you weren't called to do that.
Right. And so it's kind of like rude when people say that because you would rather me have a job that I hate as opposed to being at home.
To fit your stereotype mental model that you think a pastor's wife is supposed to be.
And true, like we sacrifice a lot so that I can be home. We don't have the nicest, newest everything.
My phone is 8 years old.
We have used cars. We're very frugal.
My car's 11 years old.
We're very blessed. I'm not going to say that we're not blessed. I know some people would love to be at home and can't.
Absolutely.
But we do work at it. And, I'm very grateful that we've been able to do it.
Right. Because again, our thing is we're content.
By the way, I'm not trying to interrupt, but Nate's teacher just texted me. He's one of the 5 left in the spelling bee.
Go Nate, go Nate, go Nate. I can't wait to
I'm
get
getting an update. She said they're taking a little break.
We need the play-by-play right now.
I know.
love
If I get an update.
live on this episode, play-by-play of Nate's spelling bee. That's awesome. But I mean, and just.
And I think where we are now, people get it.
Oh, much better now. The reason we're going at all of this is where this came on our radar that this was a thing.
I never thought this was going to be like. I really never saw this coming.
No.
I just thought,
and it has been the Saul of our relation. It has been the Saul of our ministry. So, and those of you that want to know what a Saul is, King Saul was king of Israel, and David was anointed to be the next king. And David told his men, we can't touch Saul, because if I touch Saul and try to take Saul out or try to kill Saul, then God's blessing will not rest on me when I become king. So the only person that can take Saul off that crown and put me on it is God himself. Until Saul dies or until Saul is no longer king, I'm not touching him. And this has been the recurring thing of we can't speak to it, we can't fight it. It's just always there, and it's trying to kill us. Saul was trying to kill David this entire time.
We just had to go, you know what? I know that God's called me to this. And God's going to have to deal with it.
Absolutely. God's going to have to move it. God's going to have to deal with it because we can't touch it.
I think it wasn't even like an intentional thing where they sit down and they're like, I have a problem with this. So I'm going to make it miserable for you.
No.
I just think it was just so foreign to everybody that I would want to give up my career.
It was interpreted as lazy, which offended me.
Well, yeah, because
as if what you do at home is not hard work, or what you do with me is not hard work, and what you do, and you do all that for free, by the way.
I know. So it was hard to. So let's go into We have all of this. None of this has come up when we're kid free.
No,
I'm there with David. We're doing everything. We're doing ministry. All this.
We had a win at Easter. Things got better. The team rallied. We started building and reproducing leaders.
Why aren't you working? They really weren't, because I was working with you like all the time.
Right.
They may have said like, do you want to start going looking for jobs to be a nurse and all that? And I actually was at that time, because it's a whole story, but there was a huge like nursing freeze where they weren't hiring nurses.
Right.
And so I did look for jobs. I even did flu shots for a while in Texas and stuff.
And then in the spring of 2011, I find out you're pregnant.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. And then we had our miscarriage.
Then we miscarried in May.
And we weren't really trying to have a baby, but once I had that miscarriage and my heart was broken, it was like, okay, we've got to have a baby.
We need a baby.
Yeah, I need a baby. And I mean, it's all I ever wanted. And so having that and then losing it was really, really hard.
Right.
And so
then I couldn't keep her off me for a bunch of months.
David.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We just really we grabbed a hold of it and said it's time. We feel ready to become parents. It's time.
It was like the push that we needed. And so, I mean, we got pregnant a couple of months after that miscarriage.
Yeah.
And Nate was born in May of 2012.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when everything started of.
Go ahead.
Just, you know.
You do most of the talking now.
I don't know. Like, I just felt the pressure to keep doing everything I was doing.
With excellence.
But also juggling being a mom.
Yep.
And it was all foreign to me. Nate was a very difficult baby. Not in terms of temperament. He was a happy little boy. He was so happy and sweet. But he was very, very active and he didn't sleep.
Right.
So I didn't sleep.
Right.
And then I just had all of this pressure put on me, I felt like. And I honestly felt like I was letting God down. I know I wasn't. But because I felt like I was letting the church down, it was interpreted to me of you're not doing enough for God too.
Right.
And so it was just a really, really hard time. But I strapped Nate to me.
Yes,
I mean,
you did.
I've got videos of us in the sound booth together as him as a little tiny baby. Like, I just tried to keep going.
Yep.
And then 2 years later, we have Lucy. Mm-hmm. Now we've got 2 kids, 2 and under.
Right.
And she had a lot of issues when she was born. Acid reflux, would choke through the night, all this stuff. They couldn't figure out what was going on at first. Mm-hmm. We finally got her on some new medicine. But there for a while, I was up with her all the time because she would choke. And I was so afraid she was going to choke and me not be awake and help her.
Right.
And so, you know, we have 2 kids, 2 and under. I still have all these expectations on me that I'm supposed to be at church every service. I'm supposed to be, you know, with a smile.
You were not allowed to have a sick day.
No, I was teaching stars at that point. I had like a couple months where there was somebody filling in for me, and then I got right back in there.
Yep.
And it was hard.
With a baby on your hip.
But, you know, she was so little, I wouldn't just trust her with just anyone. I mean, she was a newborn. Right. So I know like Jen would hold her sometimes in their class. I would just kind of have some people I trusted. But it was a hard time because I was going through postpartum depression really bad at that time. I wasn't sleeping. We had no family close by. Right. And I felt like I wasn't fulfilling what I should be doing. And I wanted to say this too. I never got a paycheck for any of this. No. So it's kind of weird to feel like I felt like I was failing because there was this expectation that even though we're paying you, you're like the bonus that's free, you know? Right.
We're getting a free employee by paying one.
And it wasn't everybody at the church, but that's just a very common old-fashioned
way of looking at ministry.
Yeah.
You signed up for this. You married him. Deal with it.
And that was always so hard for me because whenever I would complain or feel overwhelmed, people would say, well, you signed up for this. And I'm like, I fell in love with a man and we got married. Like, I didn't know all of this was coming. Right. I didn't know that I was signing up for anything. Which again, the running joke of our thing, would you still have married me? The pause there is all you need to hear. Sorry, my phone went off. I want to make sure it's Nate. Okay. No, I mean, yeah, absolutely I would. But and you know, it's a good thing that you don't know everything when you make decisions because it would be scary. But it was a really rough time. That time of the postpartum depression, you were working like crazy. Yes. At this point, we're having 2 services. Yes. Nighttime service, a Spanish service, all of this. Yep. So I was at home a lot with the kids. And again, we have no family anywhere close by. No. They would come when they could, like a couple times a year mainly. And thankfully at this point we had friends who could identify. Yeah, we did have friends who could identify, and most of them, there were a couple that maybe didn't know the extent. And also that's the other thing. There's only so much we can tell. There's only so much we can share because we're loyal to our pastors. Like even sharing in this podcast, I'm filtering how much I share because I honor the man of God. And we had amazing times in ministry there, and we look back on those years very fondly. Very fondly. So many ways. And I loved and so much of who I am, I was formed there. So much of what I do and how I do it was formed there. There's these things again, like we said at the beginning of this episode, there's things we learned not to do. And there's things that were part of that culture and a part of that leadership mentality that we just taken away from and said, we're not going to do that. When we were interviewing, I didn't know to ask, like, what are my expectations? Exactly. I didn't know that was a thing. So I didn't ask that. Well, then I found quickly there was a lot of expectations for me. Right. So the next few interviews, I knew to ask. Yeah. Whether they told the truth is one thing or another. Absolutely. What are your expectations of me? Because I need to know that going in. Yep. And we were so young and inexperienced. We didn't know all the questions to ask,
Right.
But God, I still believe, even though there was a lot of hard times, God did lead us there.
Yeah.
And we are better people for going through it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of our early years were just shaped by going through this.
By fire.
Yeah.
It really
and I
was.
mean, again, like by the time I have Lucy, we are so proud of our team. We had
That's
an
how I wanted to end.
amazing family
Yeah.
team.
And that's how I wanted to end this episode, was by harping on that. By the time Lucy came around, we were in the heyday of one of the most productive seasons of ministry we've ever had.
It really was.
The services were incredible. I finally had raised up several people in every position. Our depth chart was great. We had 4 or 5 people at nearly every single position, including audio and tech, that if anybody called in saying they had to work or they were sick, there was at least 1, maybe 2 people that could have stepped in to do that. Now, granted, that means they would have probably had to do both services that day or come back and do the night again or something.
We had a 9 o'clock team and an 11 o'clock team.
And then a hybrid of the two came back at 6 o'clock. And it was taxing.
She said that he got out on the word tsunami. That's a hard word.
That's a very hard word. That's a very hard word.
Oh my gosh, she sent video. He's on the stage by himself with a microphone.
That's my boy. Did he rap?
I don't know. They didn't say that.
Nate loves to do his funny stuff. But anyway, we had so much. We had so much depth at every position. And what the biggest thing was, I at this point now had section leaders. I had a soprano leader. I had an alto leader. I had a male leader for the men, the tenors, and the bass. And then we had a rotation of frontline. And we had so many backup singers on the front line that we even had groupings. These two sing great together. These two sing great together. This person needs this person.
You would even convince me to sing solos and stuff, which I never thought was going to happen.
And my favorite Christmas production that we did was the one where we played and sang everything live.
That was the Christmas right after Lucy was born.
Right after Lucy was born. Every song we did, all we had was a click. Everything else was live, real instruments, real voices, real choir. It was all us.
And just behind the scenes, because of this, we had to have your mom fly down to watch our kids for this day. Because that's what I'm saying. Like, if I couldn't be with the kids all day, there was no one else.
Right.
So your mom was amazing to come.
Because anybody else we would ask is on stage with us.
Yeah. And bless her heart, it was a rough time because Lucy wouldn't take a bottle and she screamed. Anyway, but we got through it, and it was amazing. It was amazing to see everybody come together like that.
What was your favorite Easter production? The second time we did My Chains Are Gone, or Hallelujah Praise the Lamb, where we did Abraham and Isaac?
That's hard.
Those are my 2 favorites.
They're both really good.
The first one is special because it was our first, but the one we did it again, I loved it so much more.
We did so many great productions because we would do a production in Easter and Christmas pretty much.
And then like a hybrid during the 4th of July time. Like a mini one kind of thing.
Yeah. It was just, the productions would always it was crazy because like our holidays were so wrapped up in these huge productions and it was so stressful. So like leading up to it, it was always chaotic and crazy, and I hated it. I
have half the hair I have because of those productions.
But then once they would happen, it just was the most rewarding thing.
To see people who have worked hours and hours. And as hard as much, if I put in, let's just ballpark it. If I put in probably 1,000 hours on writing, rehearsing, building sets, props, research, online purchases, let's say 1,000 hours, and you put in almost that as much as that as me. Probably still most of the volunteers, half that or more.
Oh, yeah.
They put in a ton of time on these things.
So for our Christmas productions, we would sit down and pick the music in the summer.
Yes.
And we would start working with the choir in
September.
Yeah. And so it was just such a big undertaking. Deal. And so when it all finally paid out at the end, it was so rewarding.
Yeah.
But lots of stress in there.
Absolutely. But I mean,
amazing memory. I mean, some of my favorite ministry memories.
Yes.
It really was amazing.
Because it makes people come together. It makes people listen to each other.
Yeah,
it
we've
makes
never
people,
had a better team than in Texas.
Now, dress rehearsals were always chaotic because you're fine tuning things and people. Oh, I'm so sorry. I promise I won't mess that up on Sunday and all those kind of things.
And I've been in other churches.
Lighting cues. I need this to light up over here, please.
Dress rehearsals for anything are always crazy. It's not even just us.
But then it's amazing. The night of, everything clicks. We had very little to any snafus because everybody learned from the dress rehearsal. They came in ready to go.
And God just was.
And God moved.
Yeah.
Every time.
It was amazing. It truly was some of my favorite memories.
Me too. And it was. And again, we had people that stepped up to lead. I was so thankful that by the time we left, if we had a 5-song set, which is typically what we did, we usually had 2 songs up front, 2 upbeat songs up front, and then they would come up and do announcements and do offering. And then we would go into our back 3, which were usually all maybe 1 mid-tempo, but then 2 worship slower songs.
Yeah.
And by the time we left, I was doing at the most 2 of the 5 because we had so many people that could carry melodies and so many people that could lead out. And I was so thankful. We had quartets born. We had ensembles. We had soloists that had never sang a solo in their life, and now they're doing solos and specials. That's how Jennifer learned how to do what she did. And now Jennifer leads worship on an almost weekly basis in Texas because of the time she spent with us. So.
I know. It was so rewarding. And still, like we said, the first part of this, still to this day, we are friends with more people in Texas than any other ministry place we've been. Like we still talk on Facebook. We still catch up with them and stuff when we can. Because we just have so much history and so much time.
Right.
It was a hard time, very hard because, again, we were young and we had just been married and we kind of were thrown into this and didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad that we went through it, looking back.
Do you ever miss having a choir?
I mean, I do. So it was fun being in the choir, learning your part and all standing up there. And it's very powerful, but it's also a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
And it took a lot of time to practice, and people's schedules just got harder and harder to kind of figure out. Yep. So I think they're probably a thing of the past in churches.
Most of the time, yeah.
And productions too. I mean, because people are just more busy, but we have so many memories. We just have so many memories of Texas. I mean, our kids were so little. When we left Texas, Nate was 4 and Lucy was not even 2, almost 2.
Yeah.
And I still remember our house there and all apartments we lived there. Yeah. And just thinking about bringing them home from the hospital.
6810 Lucky Tree.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that address.
I know. And, we moved into that house like a year before Lucy was born, and then we brought her home from the hospital there. Yeah. And I remember when we were going to the closing for that house, Nate had just learned to walk, and he was kind of toddling all around. Yeah. And
I still remember that. I still have that picture of me holding him, looking at the house being finished, and him pointing.
Yeah, we got to watch the house being built. It was a brand new house. It wasn't like one that we got to custom build or anything.
No, it was in the middle of like all these other 100 houses that looked just like it. Yeah,
it was very much a cookie cutter house. But it was our first house we ever bought, and that was such a
surreal moment.
It really was. Yeah. And here we are with Nate, and then a year later having Lucy. And I mean, we grew from 2 kids that just got married to we became a family in Texas. Yeah. And I have so many, as much as the stuff we said that was negative, I have so many amazing positive
Me too.
impressions from that time. And I mean, that's where Nate was diagnosed with autism and going through that. Right. And just that's where I started my YouTube channel.
Yes, it is
in Texas at that house. And so there's so
many
memories.
By the way, everybody, this year is 10 years of Blessed Jess.
I know.
We got to do something special. Your first ever video, if I remember correctly.
I think.
No, September 9th.
It says February. That must have been when I started the channel. The first few videos were very far in between.
Well, the oldest video on your channel says September 9th.
I don't know.
Anyway, so we need to celebrate when we get there. That's huge. And just to, echo what she just said, anything that I come from is not a personal attack or anything against anyone in particular. It was just a mentality. It was a mentality, and it's like people. I equate it to when people argued forever, the world is flat, and finally Galileo's like, no, it's round, and people hated him for that. And so we come in here with this thing of God has called my wife to do this. God has called me to do this. Well, we don't understand that. And when people don't understand something, usually they come across it with anger, or they come across it with, please adapt to us. Please adapt to us. And the thing I always, as I said last time, I always hear Papa's voice in my head. Whatever you do, David, serve your pastor.
And that
Serve
was
your
our
pastor.
heart. Like,
Serve
we
your pastor.
never wanted to have
No.
disagreements, and so we didn't.
And there were knockdown meetings where I was like, I really don't agree with this, but the moment I walk out that door, I'm going to do exactly what you just told me to do.
Right.
And I always did.
Yeah. And so we really tried, like, it seems like we were like really, we don't agree with this, but we weren't. Like, we were just like, and for so long, like I said, I just tried to do what everybody wanted me to do.
Exactly.
And I was figuring out who I was and what God called me to do. I had no idea. All I knew was I wanted to be a mom. And now I look at like all the stuff he's brought me through, God's brought me through to now the point I have a YouTube channel, all this stuff. Like, I didn't have that back then. God has done that. And so when you try to compare yourself to all these other people that you think are,
you lose your joy.
You lose who God's called you to be.
Amen.
And so, it was a learning process for me here and other churches too that we were at.
Yeah.
That stop trying to be what somebody else is, or what they want you to be, or your version of what they want you to be.
Right.
And just, who are you trying to please, them or God?
Right.
And so just learning that if God was okay with what I was doing and he was okay with the role I had, that was enough.
That's enough.
And I didn't have to put all this pressure on myself,
Yeah.
People can put pressure on you, but then you have to choose to leave it there.
Absolutely.
So it's been years of me walking around with this pressure and realizing like I didn't have to do that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Same thing with me. I think I've always been a 3, but my 3 got spiked in Texas.
Yeah.
Because now your achievements are what make you valuable. Mm-hmm. And so if I came back from doing a worship set or doing a production or whatever my hand was done, and I didn't come back and did not receive positive, well, then I felt like a failure.
Yeah.
Even if everybody else around me said, that's great, that's great, that's great, that's great. But then the one person that I need to hear it from said, well, that was okay, but we should have done this. I'm like,
yeah.
And it was hard. And I had to get to the place in my life where I can then leave all of that and go into my prayer closet and go, okay, Father, tell me the truth. And he always does.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's, you gave me your all. You gave me everything. Could have maybe a couple of things been done a little differently. Yeah. But the heart was there. Everything you wanted to do was there. Some stuff you had, and the things you had no control over, let those go. You cannot blame yourself for something happening that you never knew it was going to happen, and you couldn't have stopped it even if you knew it was going to happen. You can't do that. And, for anybody that's out there, watching this and you want to feel the same thing, I want to encourage you. If there's things happening around your life that you cannot control and they're just happening, that's God saying, do you trust me to help you through this season? Because you can't play the what if game. You will torture yourself.
I remember like early on in our time there, we just kept feeling like we were hitting opposition.
Yeah.
All around us.
Yeah.
Like we were having a hard time fitting in.
There were people that did not want us there.
There were a lot of people that didn't want us there. They misunderstood really our young naivety and stuff. And I remember us being like, you know what? We have a decision to make.
Yeah.
Do we fight back?
We can be bitter or we can be better.
Or are we going to just pray for them? And are we going to just give it to God and let him deal with it? And he did. Like
every time.
It was amazing to see like how things could feel so bad in 1 minute, and then he works it all out
for good.
Yeah,
all of it.
So all this crazy time that we went through, I mean, God used every single bit of it,
every piece of it,
and I'm so grateful that we did go through all that because it made us the people that we are.
Me too.
So,
yeah. I think it's a good place to bring this plane in for a landing. We have one more part on this I think we can do, because I want to definitely talk about, like our favorite, like things we did there, like our favorite songs that we learned. There's a couple of songs that Jessica brought into the culture of that church that became anthems there. I would love to talk about those. I would also love to talk about maybe some relationships we formed there that we still carry through to today. Jennifer's being one of them. There's a few more highlights that we could talk about. And I think it is important to talk about how we left. and the lesson we learned there and why we left. And so if you want to know about all those things, come back for part 3. I think Texas, 6 years, 2 years episode. That's about right. So
We're going to get through our life story in about
Yeah.
20 episodes.
I think we can definitely finish off Texas. Probably there's a bunch of nitty gritty things. I also want to talk about the places we love to eat, things we love to do in our spare time while we were there.
I loved San Antonio. It was one of the coolest places we ever lived.
Yeah, so
we could hot, but
we could definitely talk
neatest.
about all that stuff. And if you have questions regarding Texas or things you want to know about, put those in the comments. And if you have detailed questions or detailed things you want us, we are going to be doing a Q&A episode here in the next few episodes again, because that was a big deal for you guys. So if you have questions, put them in the comments or email us at married15tolife@mail.com. Again, that's married15tolife@mail.com. Jessica, look right there in that camera and tell people what they're supposed to do.
Definitely it would help if you like the videos, subscribe, hit the bell, leave us a comment. All of that stuff really helps our channel.
And if you're listening to us on an audio platform, please follow it, give us a 5-star rating, and we hope you will, again, put your stuff in the comments for us there as well. Jess, I love you.
Me too.
I'm so thankful that we get to do this together. This trip down memory lane is therapeutic as well as reflection. And,
Yeah, it kind of
and I feel lighter.
Yeah.
I wish I felt lighter here, but I feel lighter, and I'm so thankful that we get to do this together. I hope you have a good rest of your day,
You too.
and I hope all of you have a good rest of your day. So until next time, I'm David.
I'm Jess.
I'm the husband,
I'm the wife.
and we are married.
15 to life.
We'll see y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.